Welcome, everyone, to episode 3, Career 180 Women in Security. Today, I'm joined by Priscila Rodrigues from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome, Priscila.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for joining for us today. So, I want to dive right in and talk about your path to security. And was security your first career choice? And if not, what did you pursue first or second or third?
So security was not my first choice. In Brazil, I graduate a little bit earlier. We graduated around 17 and 18. And when you graduate in Brazil, it's unlike the US where you can go to college and choose a major later. In Brazil, you have to apply to the specific major that you want to go to college for. So I decided I wanted to do history. I wanted to be a history major because I'm a huge history buff, still am to this day. Throughout my studies, I figured out that though I loved history, it wasn't something that I wanted to have a career at. So I took a sabbatical,
Hmm.
and so I wouldn't figure out, and so I wouldn't be, so I wouldn't be just doing nothing for the whole year. I decided to apply for a job and try to figure out in the meantime what was going to be my next step. So IBM at the time was hiring people that had some client experience and also could speak English. And at the COE, at the time it was called CSO, I applied, I got in, and I fell in love with IBM. And I think that's what changed the course of my professional life. So I fell in love with IBM. I knew I wanted to be at the company for a long time. And then I started looking at which areas I wanted to be at. Though I was at the COE, I didn't actually want to pursue a career in that area. I wanted to go into a technical area, and I started looking it up, and I ended up liking security. I read about a lot of the different paths, and security was what I think grabbed my attention the most because it looked like something I would always be learning. So
Hmm.
security is always changing, and there's always new threats, new technology, new everything. So I knew that if I went into security, I could keep studying, which is something I love, and I would keep being challenged over and over again, and I really liked that. So I decided to go to security. So I went and applied to a major in IT security, and the rest of
Wow.
it is history.
So can you tell me a little bit more about, you said you applied to that first role and then you moved into a more technical role. So can you tell me more about that first role? And then as you moved into the technical roles, how did you upskill or reskill to get into those roles?
Sure. So at my first role was I was with the what was called the Infoprint team, which got bought out by Rico later. I was with the sort of the customer experience team. I would handle disputes, billing issues, and things like that. So I would talk to the clients and their representatives and figure out what was going on. I was there for I think like a year and a half, and when we got bought out by Rico, we were reassigned to this other areas of the COE, but I got to go to Kuala Lumpur for a few months. But
Oh.
as IBM took me there to do the KT, so the knowledge transfer, which was a great experience, and was also one of the things that helped me realize that I really wanted to stay in IT because teaching people about different aspects of IT and getting to know a completely different area in a different country was great, and I liked it a lot. So when I came back, was when I started looking for that specific area that I was gonna apply to. I ended up getting to college for IT security. After I was in college for my first period in college, I started looking for opportunities within IBM because I didn't want to leave IBM. So I
Oh,
started
great.
looking for opportunities in IT security, and I saw an opening for the operations desk team with MSS. So the operations desk team is actually very similar to what I did in the COE at the beginning, which is basically talking to the clients, making sure we understand what they need, and getting them to the people that could help them. So I applied to the HMSS Ops Desk, and I was thankfully accepted. And I started in Ops Desk, where I stayed for another, I think, a year or so.
Oh, wow. So it sounds like that assignment or that travel really influenced you in a different direction. So who would you say has been contributed or most influential in your security career path? Any mentors, things like that?
It's a tough question. I was lucky. I consider myself lucky. I got to be managed and mentored by a lot of great people throughout my career in IT. But I think the person that put me in that direction was Jaime Silveira. He's still with IBM. do not recall his role right now because he keeps getting promoted and I can never remember his role.
Well, that's good.
But but he was my first line manager. He was the manager that went with me to Malaysia to do the KT, and he saw really good potential in me to work at IBM and grow at IBM, and he said that I needed to pick a focus area and go with it because he said whatever you're going to focus on, you're going to be great at it. But you need to figure out if it's going to be customer experience, if you want to be technical or something like that. And he said that I would be great at any of those. Then he really pushed me to it. He said you need to figure out, go for it, like apply. And he gave me one advice that I keep it that I keep in my heart like all the time. Because when I was starting to look for positions to apply to, I actually talked to him about MSS, and I said I don't think I'm ready yet because I've just had my first year in college and I have no experience. And he said something that I later found out was even truer than what he thought. He said, "Well, you can't apply to a job that you're 100% fit for. You have to apply if you have some of the skills. It's good. Some of them you're going to pick up later. It's not. No one expects to have someone with 100% of the skills." And that's something I read about recently, that women only apply to jobs that they have 100% of the skills for, and men apply for like 60% or 50% of the skills for.
Right.
And thankfully, I heard his advice. And when I went into my job interview, I actually flat out told the interviewers that I'm just beginning IT security, but I really want to learn. I really want to know more about it. I'm going to apply myself for it. I'm not super technical yet, but the manager liked me a lot. He liked the fact that I could speak English very well and that I had people skills, like soft skills. So he
Right.
was happy to take me on and see how would I develop those skills, and that paid off for him and for me.
That's great. It sounds like you had a really good mentor who really pushed you in the right direction. And just me knowing you, I know that you lead teams and that you do that for others. Can you talk a little bit about, if you're encouraging, or even real life experiences that you may have had, if you're encouraging other women to pursue a career in security, what would be your best advice? Or you can even give accounts of things that you have done to help others.
So the best advice that I have for women that want to go into IT or security is the advice that I got, funny enough, for my maternal grandmother, who had no knowledge of computers
I
whatsoever.
love it.
But she used to say that it's hard being a woman in the workplace. She says you're one of the first generations that are already starting to, you're growing up learning that you are going to go into the workplace a lot.
Mhm.
Before your time, people would just be housewives. So that's good. That's a great start that a lot of women work really hard for. And as a woman, it is your job to make sure you are doing the same thing for the generations that are going to come. So she used to say you cannot be afraid to put your foot through the door, but you have to make sure that you're also leaving that door open for other women to follow you. So it's easier for the next ones to come and so and so. So I think that's the best advice that I can give. Is it's hard. When I joined MSS Ops Desk, I think I represented less than 2% of where there was less than 2% of
Oh,
women
wow, really?
MSS in Ops Desk. I think there was me and one other person, another girl, and everyone else was guys. And that was something that I was actually told and asked if that was going to be a problem because it was going to be almost 100% men working in the same room with me, and I had no problem with that. But I think that's the best advice that I can give. It's hard. It's not super easy to be the first one or one of the first ones, but it gets easier, and the more foot feet through the doors that we get, the more women are going to follow. The more not only women but other minorities and other people are
Right.
going to follow, and it's going to make for a more diverse and happier place for everyone to work at. So do not give up and don't be afraid. It pays off.
I I couldn't agree more. I'm cueing off what your grandmother said about you being the first generation, and what you said about coming in as maybe only two women that were working on the floor with the team at that time. Did you feel there were barriers in your security career because you were a woman?
I wouldn't say barriers per se, but I heard from different people like I don't think they came from a bad place, but they tried to discourage me. They tried to tell me, "Well, you sure you want to go into a very mainly like area? You're doing so well with customer experience and customer COE we had a lot of women in the COE, so a lot of people said, "Are you 100% sure? Like women are so great in customer experience. And I said, well, I think we're great everywhere. I just need to have the chance to go there and prove that we're great.
Oh,
So
wow.
it wasn't barriers per se, but we had that. And uh, I think everyone, when you start, especially when there's so few in the area, people, especially the guys, were a little bit skeptical as to how they should address me and things like that. But once we got in the groove, we all became friends and we're still friends to this day. And it went great. So it wasn't as hard of it wasn't as hard to adapt as people had thought it would be. I actually, it's not the first time that I heard that when I was, funny story, when I was, I think in first grade, compared to the US, we were learning the numbers after 100, and I didn't know what numbers came after 100 at school. And
Hmm.
it drove me crazy because I was a geek from very young age, like my dad likes to say, and I was very focused on being the best student. So the fact that I didn't know what came after 100 drove me crazy, and I started crying. And they had to end up calling my parents. My dad was the one who went to school to get me, and the teacher unfortunately told him that it was okay, that they were going to teach me, and that he shouldn't worry that much because girls are not that good with math anyway. And my dad is an engineer, and I am my dad's only daughter. My dad has four sons and me, and my dad was not nice with the teacher. He got extremely excited. He said he did not remember uh, needing to be a man to learn how to do math, but it has been a while since he went to school. And when we were in the ride home, he looked at me and he said, "You're going to learn math, and you're going to be the best math student in that school." Because I do not want other kids thinking that they can't learn because they're a girl that doesn't think any sense whatsoever. So he pounded me with math exercises, and he made sure I was really good with math, and also helped me to be in a technical career. But he also made sure of that. So I think we've been battling those kind of barriers for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's get used to it at some point, and we just know that we have to just push it through and prove to people that it's not the fact that we're women that change that affects how well we can do a job.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like you had a lot of family support. Have you found the same support working in a professional place as well?
Yeah, I'm happy to say I have. Though, like I said, some people try to discourage me and ask me about it. I can say that for the long run, I've had way much more support than I had people trying to discourage me. I am. I got. I like to say lucky a lot because I do feel lucky. I got to meet not only incredible women in leadership positions that support me, like my manager right now, Jessica, my,
Hmm.
I call my grand boss, Lisa, and you as a mentor. But I also got to
I
meet,
love that.
but I also got to meet a lot of men who are super excited to work with women who do not only women, but work with great people. They don't care
Right.
if I'm a woman, especially I'm Brazilian, so I'm Latin. I have an accent, and a lot of those things could be barriers for some people. But I've met some great men who are more than happy to support us like that, and who like working with me and like telling me that I'm doing great and that like to ask if they can help, point me to the right direction, tell me about classes and things I can take to better myself. So uh, I think I've had much more support than I had people trying to discourage me, and I'm very thankful for that. But I do believe like I said, I've been working at IBM for a while now, so I can't say for all companies, but I can say that at least at IBM, I've always felt supported.
Oh, that's great news. And that's great to kind of to end off. I think your story is wildly inspiring. I'm so glad you shared it with us. Before we break today, is there any parting words or advice or anything that you would give to someone who's watching this episode and looking for a career change?
Yeah,
Anything parting?
connect to people. Like Maddie is absolutely amazing. I cannot say enough good things about Maddie. She changed my career within the last year. And but connect, talk to Maddie, talk to myself if you want. Even if it's not security, if it's something else, find people that are in the job or in the area that you want, and just ask them about it. This is something, especially for the women, we do not do that as much as we should. Men do it a whole lot more, and it's how you start learning about. So the person might not get you a job, but they might tell you what you should be studying or how where you should apply or what you should be doing differently, or pointing you to someone else who can be a mentor to you. So do not be afraid to reach out. I think we are, for some reason, we're conditioned not to try and do that, and try to, because we feel bad about taking someone else's time. Don't feel bad about it. People are like, I would love to, I love when people reach out to me and ask for help. I think it's one of the greatest things to know that, well, I came all this way and now I can help get people to the same place where I am. So do not be afraid. Talk to people, connect, look for them. Look in LinkedIn. Look even in social media. We have there's a lot of people that talk about security, IT in Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, so whatever, Twitter,
They
and
do.
look out, follow them, and talk to them, connect to them. I think that's the best advice that I can give.
I totally agree. And I didn't plan on this episode ending with a call to action, but I love it. And I think that's amazing. I think right now, if you're watching this episode, as soon as it ends, reach out to someone, whether that be myself, Madi, or Priscilla. Reach out, make that security connection, start having a conversation. It starts with a 10, 15, 30-minute conversation. I think that's excellent advice, Priscilla. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Thank you, everyone, for watching.